The term GMO is used to refer to any microorganism, plant, or animal in which genetic engineering techniques have been used to introduce, remove, or modify specific parts of its DNA. Genes can be inserted that cause the plant to be resistant to many things, such as weeds, insects, and disease. This allows for fewer herbicides to be used on crops, and more crops to survive and produce food. Farmers have been raising GM food crops such as corn, soybeans, and potatoes since the mid-1990s. A study in 2008 shows that corn sold by Monsanto caused immune changes related to allergic and inflammatory responses in the mice it was fed to. In another study, Monsanto's GM corn was fed to mice over 4 generations. In the third and fourth litters, there was a significant reduction in the number of mice pups. Offspring of Russian rats fed GM soy showed a 5 times increase in mortality, lower birth weights, and the inability to reproduce. Additionally, several farmers reported sterility or fertility problems among American pigs and cows fed on GM corn varieties. Several types of crops have been genetically modified to be herbicide resistant, which enables farmers to wipe out most weeds from the fields without damaging their crops. Studies now show that these plants can cross-pollinate to produce herbicide-resistant weeds. Herbicide-resistant weeds reported in Nebraska alone include horseweed, giant ragweed, and several others. Some of the foods that may contain GMOs in one way or another include Betty Crocker, Kellogg's, Cadbury and Hershey's chocolate, several brands of frozen dinners and pizzas, Frito-Lay, Pringles, Coca-Cola, Gatorade, V8, Campbell's Soups, and many more. A 2012 poll found that 91% of American consumers wanted GMOs labeled, and according to another recent poll, 53% of consumers said they would not buy food that has been genetically modified. Most developed nations do not consider GMOs to be safe. In more than 60 countries around the world, including Australia, Japan, and all of the countries in the European Union, there are significant restrictions or outright bans on the production and sale of GMOs. The United States is one of the largest producers of GM crops, but, along with Canada, is one of the only countries that do not require labeling of genetically engineered foods. In addition, evidence collected over the past decade suggests GMOs may be contributing to higher allergy rates. There are also concerns about how GMOs affect the environment. For example, Bt corn is a type of GMO that produces a protein that kills European corn borer caterpillars, but laboratory tests show its pollen may kill monarch butterfly larvae. In the tests, half of the monarchs fed milkweed leaves with Bt corn pollen died, whereas all the monarchs survived when fed leaves without corn pollen. So far, powerful biotech companies have succeeded in keeping GMOs unlabeled in the U.S.
In a January 1999 biotech conference in San Francisco, a company arrogantly predicted that within 5 years, they would be able to replace 95% of all commercial seeds in the world with genetically engineered seeds. They wanted to replace nature. But 3 weeks later, their plans crashed. When the gag order on a scientist in Europe was lifted, and he was finally able to speak about the dangers of genetically engineered foods. Within a month, 750 articles were written. Within 10 weeks, the tipping point of consumer rejection was achieved, and within a week, virtually every major food company committed to stop using GM ingredients in their European brands, but not in the US. It was consumer concern that kicked GMOs out of Europe. and it's consumer concern that will kick GMOs out of the United States. In fact, the bovine growth hormone from the genetically modified drug has been kicked out of Walmart and Starbucks and Yoplait and Dannon and most American dairies because consumers are learning about its potential link to cancer. Now people are learning about the dangers of genetically modified foods as well. We believe that as little as 5% of US shoppers, 15 million Americans, avoiding genetically modified brands would be sufficient to create a tipping point to kick them out of the market. So be part of that tipping point. Learn about the health dangers of GMOs, learn how to avoid them, and let's together reclaim a non-GMO food supply.